What it is, y'all, it's your old boy Pilk, and I'm coming back with more Danmachi, and we got to talk about the incoming banners tonight, because, admittedly, these actually are pretty good. There's some serious things to consider here, and we really need to have this discussion. So, first things first, though, remember, there's a free 4-star ticket. All you got to do is finish, I believe, very hard. I could be wrong. Maybe it's just normal. I think it's very hard. In the current event, and you'll get a ticket, or maybe it's even in the exchange. I'm not 100% on that. I don't remember what the whole conditions were, but it says clear all quests and get a 4-star ticket, so it usually means it's sitting at the end of the event. So, go ahead, farm up this ticket before you do anything else, because maybe, who knows, you might get the unit you want out of it. Let's just jump in. So, banner number 1 is going to be Eyes, Hermes, and Anakitty. We're talking about Eyes first, and Eyes is interesting. 4,500 HP, so a decent amount of HP, a really good amount of HP, actually. 2170 for physical attack, and a 1232 for agility with 787 endurance. Those are the big stats for her. Those are the ones that really, honestly, truly matter. So, what does she do and why is this important? Well, okay. So, skill 1, we talked about this yesterday, but we'll go into this real quickly. Skill 1 is a 71 MP cost. It is a foes plural slow attack, super water physical attack with ultra encounter rate, agility and dex down 35% for 5 turns, self agility and dex plus 45% for 5 turns, and 4 additional actions, foes plural, mid water physical attack, skill damage 35%, per self strength damage buff with a 35% seal. Here's the deal on this. Okay? So you're basically going to come in. I know this is a super attack. Normally you think about doing this turn 2. You want to do this turn 1. Then turn 2, you come and you do your skill 2. 60 MP. Remember, this is usually like a war game build. So 60 MP cost, self, fast, strength, water, attack damage, and ailment resistance, plus 60%. So she gives herself a good amount of ailment resistance. Reason this is important in turn 2 is because, well, okay, let's actually finish this up. We'll get to that here in a moment. So, for 4 turns and a foe's plural, strength, magic, water resist, and seal resist down 35%. AoE damage taken plus 35% and for 4 turns and 35% seal. Now, here's why this is important. That seal resistance means that when the extra attack goes off on this turn, basically she's going to do 35% seal, and she's going to do it again. So you hit him with the debuff on the seal resistance, and you're pretty much guaranteed. Not really guaranteed, but, you know, even with 100% seal resistance, unless they have just general ailment resistance on top of the 100% seal resistance, you're pretty much going to seal somebody on the team. It's a big AoE hit. She is a really solid ailment unit. But then you come back in, and you're probably going to wind up doing skill 1. Now, it depends on whether you have her set to attack all, or whether you have her set to ailment. Because if you have her set to ailment, she's going to do skill 2. If you have her set to attack all, she might go back and do skill 1. Hard to call on that one. It really comes down to like how it plays out, but I would think hopefully she would do skill 1, because while that is a slow attack, you still have your extra actions. And then that super class attack, whatever's left on him, might finish him off. That's going to be a big attack. Plus, on the backside of that, you're going to get a 35% extra damage on the secondary attack. So, it really comes down to, do you want her to hit hard? Skill 1. Do you want her to do her seal? Skill 2. Really, turn 3 is either going to be a finish move, or it's just going to be solidifying the next units in line also get sealed, which actually probably wouldn't be a bad idea. You probably do want to set her to ailment, so she does that, so that she makes sure that everybody is kind of sealed on the team. Her single target, skill 3, 49 MP cost, foe singular, super water physical attack with ultra and guard rate, temporary great strength boost. Now here's the best part. Seal. Just seal. Just seal. She just hits him with the seal. So, yeah. Like, unless they have seal resistance or ailment resistance or something, that single target attack is going to, the downside is it's not going to do damage. So it's not a damage-producing move. It's literally just a last-ditch effort to seal. And here's the reason that she has that. Number 1, you don't use single target attacks in Wargame. Number 2, she's not designed to do damage in that way. Now, she will do damage, but it's all going to be that extra action. And when you're taunted, you're kind of taunted into using single target attacks. So, skill 3 goes off, 49 MP, super water physical attack. It's not going to hit hard, but you're pretty much, barring any major ailment resistance, you're pretty much guaranteed to seal. Like, you're going to hit them with a seal. So whoever taunted you is now sealed. They're not taunting someone else. She's a really solid ailment unit with anti-ailment built in and a lot of hitting built in. Now, she's really good. Like, Eyes is really respectable, but here's the thing. I always take points off when the unit is exclusive to either Wargame or Record Buster, and that's exactly what she is. She's Wargame only. So if I was going to rate her, I'd give her like an A rank at best. Really solid for what she's designed to do. Problem is, it's only Wargame. That's it. You're never going to use her outside of Wargame. So do bear that in mind before you summon on her. Really good Wargame unit, but Wargame exclusive. And yes, I know the argument, her extra action and her super class attack could seal, but being a slow super attack, very few events you're going to use her in. You're never going to use her as a water DPS, so long as the water team that we have now exists, because that water team is really, really ridiculous. So she's never going to be your DPS. She's always going to be an ailment unit. She could work as a DPS in a pinch. Case in point, Wargame, where, you know, with the ailment team, you're not really looking for a DPS. You're just looking to wear your opponent down. In that case, she would be your DPS because she is going to have a pretty hefty hit for what it is. But at the end of the day, in any event, PvE event, where you're looking to attack an opponent and pretty, you know, like Familia Rush, Familia Royale, anything like that, she's going to be utterly worthless. So you're looking at a Wargame exclusive unit. For that reason, I would give her maybe an A at best. Though, if I was going to put her in Wargame, then she gets a much higher rank. But being exclusive to Wargame, it kind of takes her back a mark for me. That said, if you guys are looking for a Wargame unit, solid, very solid Wargame unit. And note these units are not time limited. So, in this situation, if you want my honest opinion, if you're low on Iris and you're looking to figure out what you're going to do, if you're looking to build an ailment team, number one, ailment teams don't have to be max limit broken. It's a bonus, but they don't have to be. So, it's going to slow her down a bit, but she's not designed to be quick anyway. I guess her skill 1 isn't designed to be quick. So, you don't need all that agility. You don't need all that. If she's +2, +3, you can be in good shape. And you could use Prism Bonds. So, if you just get one of her, and then maybe get the rest later on with tickets or Prism Bonds or whatever, you're in good shape. It's not the end of the world. But I've spent a lot of time here because I do feel like she's a really solid unit. I don't want my ranking to make anyone think I don't think she's amazing. She's good. She's really solid. But I also want to emphasize that we are going to have 2 new units incoming, most likely middle of next month, or maybe even a week into next month, for the new light novel. So I have a hard time telling people to spend 8,000 Irish right this minute when we've got that incoming. But if you need an element, there she is. I know it's confusing, but it's... I'm talking to the free-to-play players, of course, and if you're looking for a good ailment unit, go for it. If you don't really care about building an ailment team, she's not a DPS. That's pretty much the long and the short of it. Anakitty. 4540 for HP, 2162 for physical stat, and 1150 for agility with 628 for dex. Or, I'm sorry, endurance. A little low on the endurance, but a little bit higher on the dex, in fact. Her dex is above 1,000, so interesting build there. Skill 1 with her is a 57 MP cost, self, SA gauge charge gain plus 100%, strength and thunder attack damage plus 70% for 4 turns, and 4 additional actions, foes singular, mid-thunder physical attack with high penetration rate. So she's a Record Buster exclusive unit. So you have the Wargame unit, you've got the Record Buster unit, okay? Skill 2 is a 46 MP cost, foes singular fast, high thunder physical attack with ultra and guard rate, strength, magic, thunder resist, all down 40% for two turns. With a skill 3 foe singular super thunder physical attack with high penetration rate, skill damage 90%, which is a big number, per self SA gauge charge gain buff. So, and allies extend buffs by 2 turns. That's really important. That is, I feel like, going to be really important in tonight's war game as well. I feel like tonight's war game is going to be a big one. She's going to be super duper duper important for this war game, if you really care about that. We've had a lot of, I think we had a Thunder war game unit in the last light novel, if I recollect. I can't remember exactly, because my memory sucks. But when my age you reach, have as good a memory, you will not either. So, yeah, I really like this unit for Wargame. I think she's going to be a really solid hitting unit. 90% is really good. Her SA is a foe singular, Ultra Thunder physical attack with ultra critical rate, temporary great strength boost, Thunder resist down 60% for 4 turns, and 5 additional actions, foe singular, high Thunder physical attack with high penetration rate. I honestly feel like that SA isn't worth it. You're probably going to use her skill 3 and just use her as a DPS in that regard. I don't think there's very many situations where you're going to use that SA. Though that Thunder resist down is going to be nice, is it worth the 20% or is it just worth using your DPS? It's going to kind of come down to your opinion on that. But there's not a huge amount in her extra stuff there. And the temporary great strength boost, I don't think it's going to be worth sacrificing the 90%. I could be wrong on that. But it's really nice to have a unit in Wargame that you don't have to SA with, too. It's nice to have a unit, and we've had quite a few of these over the years, where you just use their skill 3. You just spam it, and you don't care about anything else. That's really what she is. So she's going to be really, really, really good for Wrecker Buster tonight, especially. Any Thunder Wrecker Buster coming up for the next year or so, she's going to be really solid at. That said, outside of Wrecker Buster, you're never going to use her. Maybe in Familia Rush, Familia Royale, whatever. But even then, it's like, eh. Oh, we didn't talk about passives for Eyes or Anakitty. Eyes' passives are 45% fire resistance to counters and everything are water physical attack, 35% strength, endurance, and dex, 20% damage on critical and penetration, 35% ailment resistance, which is nice. That's one thing that's unique to her. And she's a Phantasma killer. Reason I bring that up is Anakitty is 45% water resistance, counters our foe singular thunder physical attack, and extends status buffs by 1 turn. So that's a big, nice... extends status debuffs by 1 turn. Notice that she does status buffs on her skill 3, debuffs on her counter. So really nice that's a very handy tool. 35% strength, agility, and dex, 30% damage on penetration, which is really nice. Notice no crits on there. It's only on penetration. But she is a Phantasma killer. That 30% damage on penetration is going to be big, though. And her skill 3 gives her a penetration rate skill. So she's going to be a good, hard-hitting unit. It's like, unit's going to be great. For Wrecker Buster, and that's it. So once again, remember, whenever I see a unit that only does one thing, I'm immediately like, check your expectations. Though for that one thing she does, she's going to be phenomenal. Mad Hatter Hermes. Foes, AoE damage taken, and single target damage taken, plus 20%, and guard rate down 20%. We had a unit that did this almost exact same skill, but I believe that unit was magic-based. I say magic-based, and that notices his 1072 for HP, but 653 for physical attack, and 262 for magic. I believe the other one was slanted a little bit more towards magic than physical attack. This is more physical attack than magic. Basically, I believe only the second unit that does both AoE and single target at that skill, and that can be useful. There are many, many, many instances, especially in Familia events, where that's useful. I would highly recommend getting Hermes if you do not have the Anniversary unit. If you have the Anniversary unit, you can probably muster with just that, but I don't remember who that is, and someone did say it earlier. Once again, guys, my memory is... I can't remember all these units. There's so many units in this game. It's just really... like, it's overwhelming for me. But Toka. Oh, I'm sorry. Toka would have been the... not the Anniversary. I'm sorry, the crossover. So, the Toka crossover unit, he's basically a clone of just for physical instead of magic. So if you have Toka, you don't need him. If you don't have Toka, would be a really good asset. And most people that haven't been playing for more than 6 months probably don't have her anyway. Banner number 2. Then we're kicking this off with the Queen of Hearts, Riveria. And I really like her build, but I don't know how well she's going to work. She seems like a unit that's designed to do a little bit too much. And usually when that happens, they look really good on paper. They just don't perform as well. But I thought the same thing about the original Haruhime when she dropped it. She turned out to be amazing. So this is that rare unit that I think is going to have to age a little bit before we really understand her all the way out. But skill 1 is a 91 MP cost. Foes, plural. Low fire magic attack with ultra and uncounter rate. I talk about her stats there. We'll talk about that in a minute. Ultra uncounter rate, self AoE damage taken, and single target damage taken. Down 65%, so she's a tank. That's for 5 turns. That's only to her. That's not to all allies. That's only her. And foes, remove thunder, earth, wind, light, dark, attack damage buffs, and 3 additional actions, foes, plural, mid-fire magic attack with ultra and guard rate and 40% sleep. So she's a tank and an ailment. It's really interesting the way she's built because she looks bulky and a little dangerous on the ailment side. But she's basically your survivor. Having that extra sleep skill on there is just kind of like the icing on the cake. It's hard to tell how that's going to work out. I didn't talk about her stats, so we'll talk about that again. Talk about it now. 4330 for HP. Notice she has magic. 2053 for magic. 859 for agility. So she's not a fast unit. She's a very, very, very slow unit. Those 746 for endurance. On a magic unit is really solid, substantial even. Even on a physical unit, it's not bad. So yeah, very good unit all the way around there. Just good build altogether. Her skill 2, so I'm kind of jumping around here at this point. 78 MP cost, foes, plural, superfire magic attack with ultra and guard rate. Skill damage 70% per self magic debuff. And self magic critical rate and fire attack damage 70% for 4 turns. Self 60% HP heal and remove physical and magic resistance debuffs. Let me emphasize how this is working out, basically. Because that's a lot. There's a lot to take in there. So, Superfire Magic Attack with Ultra and Guard Rate, skill damage 70%. That's an AoE attack that is a 70% attack rate. But it's on magic debuff. Here's the only time she's really going to be good. Well, okay. There are PvE situations in which she'd be debuffed, but they're very rare. Mostly Familia events. I think for the next Familia event, she's going to be mandatory for probably turn 1. But here's the deal. In Wargame, you don't just debuff on the Adventurer side. You debuff on the Assist side. Now, I think we're getting to the point where word's out. There's enough debuffers out. There's enough units out there that punish debuffs. She's definitely one of them. She's a debuff punisher. Yeah, 70% per magic debuff if you debuff the Adventurer and the Assist side. That becomes an all-encompassing hit. 140% skill damage, which is going to hurt. That, in and of itself, could level most teams. It's quite wild. And she's bulky. So she's the Queen of Hearts for absolute certain. All you got to do is debuff her, and she just drops the hammer on everybody. It is absolutely scary to see her come up on a team when you know you've got debuffers, especially on the Adventure and the Assist side. Double debuffs on her, basically death sentence. That's her big thing. Now, notice she doesn't really do her big buffs. She doesn't do any of her attack damage buffs until this turn. So that basically means when you do your skill 1, that's basically building her up. She's like a 3-turn. She takes her 3 turns to really do what she needs to do. So, turn 1 is building her up. Turn 2 is adding all those buffs and everything on there. Now, it'll be a hard hit, but it's not going to be the end of the world. Turn 3, she levels you. That's the one big saving grace here with her, is if you can kill her before, because notice she's slow. If you can kill her before she builds herself up, you'll be good to go. But once she's there, once she's built up, by the end of turn 2, She is the wall standing tall, and you will never be able to topple her. It is going to be horrifying to see this unit survive turn 2. Because that basically means you've lost, with a rare exception. If you guys remember when the last Otaro dropped in the game, and when you saw this guy in a team, you were just like, forfeit, he's going to kill us. That's kind of how she is. But she takes some time to get there. So she's not scary in the beginning. If you can get rid of her early, great. But no. Once again, we're talking mostly Wargame here. Though in fairness, I could see them building PvE events specifically for her. She is, once again, though, predominantly Wargame. She's not built overall. I expect great things out of her for people that have her Maxima broken. But I'm going to warn you guys right now, there's going to be a very small window in which she'll actually be useful. I like her. I love her build. I want her to be amazing. But the reality is she's just built a little too weirdly. I'm really enamored by this build. I love very thought-provoking, difficult to utilize builds like this. I think they're very unique. I think they add a really deep element and aspect to the game. But the reality is, for the vast majority of players, you're just going to be confused as to how to use her. I love her, but man, she's just got too many caveats for me to like really recommend. Skill 3 with her is a foe singular superfire magic attack with ultra critical rate, temporary great magic buff. Passives are 45% wind resistance, counters are fire magic attack, 35% magic endurance and dex, 30% damage on critical rate, 25% magic and physical resistance. Note that's the top of everything else she already has. And she's a Phantasma killer once again. I think she'll be the queen for the next Familia event. I think she's going to absolutely be the unit that you want above all else. The downside is that's going to be her one rare situation in which to shine. She'll do great in Wargame, but if she goes up against somebody that takes her out early, you're going to hate life. So just have a backup plan, which we'll get to in a moment, actually. Funny enough, now that we mentioned that. Her SA is an Ultra Fire magic attack with ultra critical rate. Skill damage 90%. Now, this is where she gets really interesting. Skill damage 90% per self magic buff, and foes, plural, strength, magic, agility, dex, and endurance, down 50% for 3 turns. So here's where she gets really, really interesting. Everything I said kind of goes out the window with her SA. Her SA is a great AoE DPS. You're going to find very rare situations in which she's not going to be useful as a DPS for SA. So you're going to find very few units that you're going to want to use SA-wise over her, because that 90% is not on debuffs now. It's on self-magic buffs, which you control. That's on you. So you can build her to produce insane damage. So everything I said before was exclusive to Wargame. Now you've got all the stuff that is like PvE, you know, even 7th Zone. Like, this is generic. Now, she becomes really good. The downside is you got to have enough SA that you can use her regularly. And honestly, at this stage of the game, we've got plenty of that. So, can you wait to produce damage? There's plenty. And you know what? I've done enough EX missions. I've done all this stuff. There are plenty of situations where you can hold off and use her as an SA monster to absolutely annihilate your opponent. Go back 2 years from after the 4th anniversary, a year and a half, after the 4th anniversary when the first Record Buster dropped, and we were using the AoE Aisha, literally for a very similar 80% AoE buff. We were using her to Record Buster to produce damage. Now it's the first time we had ever done that, but that's an example of just how good these percentage buffs are on SA. So I really like Riveria, but she's a challenging unit to use, and she's kind of that jack of all trades situation. Though I'd say even better than that, because while she isn't terribly focused, it feels like she's going to be really great at everything. The downside of this is usually when units look like this, they don't stand up to the expectation. So I'm really afraid to tell people, oh my god, this unit's going to be awesome and just all around great, because we've had those situations and they've fallen on their face. I think she's going to be awesome. I like her a lot. Would I value her over any other unit? Not for any specific situation. Once again, I think she's a good backup plan. Is she a good primary plan? Probably not. If you're using her for Record Buster, you're using her wrong. If you're using her for War Game, you should probably go after Eyes. It's a tough call. I love the build. I love the unit. I really want to enjoy the unit. And I see many situations in which she'd work. But you've got to have top-notch team building to make that happen. So probably to the average player, probably a pass. I hate to say that, but she's the Queen of friggin' Hearts. I hope to eat those words. I really hope I eat those words. But I'm kind of feeling on this one, for the vast majority of players out there, probably pass. Let's talk about Raul. I harped on about Riveria for far too long, but I love the build. I really... Anybody who talked to me last night knows that I'm enamored by the build. It's just worrisome. All right, so Raul. Raul is interesting. Oop. Spoilers. 4532 HP, 2155 for physical attack, 1217 for agility, so he's quick. 662 for endurance is good. Not great, but let's see what he does here. So he's a skill 1, 204 MP, allies, fast, HP and MP plus 20%, heal, and nullify 1 physical and 1 magic attack. Earth, fire, thunder, wind, light, dark resistance, and guard rate, and physical resistance, and magic resistance, all up 40% for 1 turn. Skill 2 is a 70 MP cost, foes plural, super water physical attack with ultra uncounter rate, skill damage plus 40% per self, dex buff skill, so that could be a good hit, but it's weird. Self, strength, and dex, and water attack damage plus 70%. So the one takeaway here is he doesn't really get good once again until turn 3, because he's got to get that dex buff. Yeah. Unless you have somebody else on the team that does a dex buff, then he'll hit really hard on turn 2. Hit even harder on turn 3. But the reality is with this build, he's not going to hit hard until turn 3 with that skill 2. Skill 3 is a foe's singular super water physical attack. Skilled with ultra penetration rate. Skill damage 80% per self dex buff skill. That's good. So he's going to be a good single target hitter. And SA is a foe's singular. Foe's plural. Foe's plural. Ultra water physical attack with ultra penetration rate. Skill damage 80% per self dex buff skill. And 4 additional actions, foes plural, high water physical attack, extend status debuffs by 2 turns, and foes magic resist and physical resist down 50% for 2 turns. So, an interesting build. This dude has the potential to hit hard with all of his percentage buffs. I don't think he's going to be insanely hard hitting. He's mostly there for his skill 1. His skill 1 is probably the most important thing about him. He'll be a splendid sack unit for that skill 1. Fast, high HP and MP heal, and no 1 physical and magic attack. That's going to pull you out of the fire in a lot of situations. He'll be clutch on some of the EX events coming up here shortly. Also does a lot of resistances right out of the gate, including physical and magic resistance and guard rate, as well as just about every element resistance. So what he's designed to do is he's basically just a slightly better defensive buff unit. Now, he will hit respectably. He's not going to be a DPS for you, but he will hit respectably, mostly in War Game, but in some other situations. That SA is nice. That SA is going to hurt really bad, but you've got to get skill 2 off, and you've got to keep those dex buffs on. I don't know, guys. He is mostly support, though. That's predominantly his role. 45% fire resistance counters are water physical attack, 35% strength, agility, and dex, 30% damage on penetration, 5% HP and MP regen per turn, which is really nice, and he's a Phantasma Killer. Notice they're giving you that Phantasma Killer. That's because our next event is probably going to be Phantasma. Almost guaranteed. If you have to choose one banner over the other, I think the other banner is better. There's too many caveats on this banner. They're going to be good units, but it's going to take some work to get them to do their job, and it's going to take them a while. Thus far, both of these units to do any real damage is going to take 3 turns minimum. Even the Queen of Hearts, you got to build her up for a while. I do worry The Queen of Hearts is going to be susceptible to rush teams. Beyond that, people are going to hate her. She's going to be the bane of Wargame. But a rush team will take her out. So that's kind of the caveat there. He might be able to somewhat alleviate that. Somewhat. It is a fast skill. That heal factor will be nice. If you set him to heal, basically leave him on your team to do that for Wargame, that 20% heal and MP heal is going to be nice. And MP heal is not as much a factor in Wargame, though it can be for longer fights. He literally just kind of helps everybody else on the team survive a little bit longer. But he doesn't have the counter heal, so that kind of, it is what it is. It's just a general support unit that has a bit of DPS built into him. I think, honestly, Riveria is a little more focused than he is. I hate to say, but it is true. I think over the two, I would choose her. But once again, I've already said I'm prone to like those types of builds. Let's talk about Bell. 1208 for HP, 409 for both physical and magic, and 623 for agility. So he's all about agility. At max limit break, and I want to emphasize, when we talk about these assists, we always talk about them at max limit break. Shorten status buff by 3 turns, 4 instant effects. When attacked, foes singular removes strength and magic buffs and can activate this up to 2 times per turn. So, what this unit is, this is your slot 5 unit for Wargame. And that's it. That's the only time he's ever going to be used, is in Wargame. Your first unit, either you send him to sack out, or you unfortunately lose somebody important. However you choose to use them. Slot 5 unit comes in instantly. He hits the whole team, or hits the whole opponent's, or hits the whole team with status debuff removal. So while it won't remove it, it'll chop 3 turns off, which in the vast majority of situations will get rid of most debuffs. If it doesn't get rid of them that turn, it'll get rid of them the turn after that. And 4 instant effects when attacked, which means during turn 2, or whenever he winds up coming into play, if he's attacked up to twice per turn, he will retaliate with strength and magic buff removal. So as he's attacking, he swipes those strength and magic buffs, or while they're attacking, or after they attack technically, swipes strength and magic buffs. So the next time they attack, they're pretty much neutered, or next turn they've got a rebuff, depending on how your opponent has them set. Why this happens twice? Most of the time in Wargame, you're facing AoE opponents. So, you can expect to get hit most of the time 4 times, or better with counters and all that, per turn. So, for the first 2 hits on turn 2, when he comes into play, because you would never use it. This is not a frontline unit. You never use this unit on the frontline. This is either when you sack somebody out, or, which there's ways to manually do that. You can't use a swap hankless, but there are ways to manually sack units out. Basically, deliberately get them killed. Or, so he dies and you've got basically your backup unit incoming. When he comes in, he starts to go into effect. You get hit twice turn 2, or whatever turn he comes into effect. He does that effect. Now, hits 3 and 4, no effect. But the following turn 3, happens again. Now after that, you're kind of done. You've got 4 hits. If you get hit once per turn, you can go up to 4 times. If you get hit twice per turn, which is the average, you can do it twice. So it does peter off. But Wargame is usually fast enough. It can make a big difference. Because if you're taking mad damage, and once he removes those strength buffs, that means your opponent has to take a turn to either reapply the buff, or if they have their unit set wrong, it won't even reapply the buff. It'll just go in there to try to attack without a buff. So a good slot 5, slot 6 unit. Very, very good, in fact. Like, this guy is going to be seen in a lot of Wargame teams. Here's the big question. Is it worth chasing if you don't want to Raul and Riveria? Rates and assists are a lot lower. And I mean a lot lower. I would say, honestly, if you like this unit, go after the 4-star ticket. Maybe do your first summon, see what you get. He'll be around. These are not time-limited units. He'll be in tickets and things like that. You will be able to acquire him. Is he worth going after? There are other slot 5 units that are maybe not as effective, but could be effective. And I bet you if you go back through your team, you probably have somebody that you could utilize as that backline unit. They may not be as good, but chasing an assist on a banner like this is a risky prospect, especially if you're not that enamored by Raul or Riveria. Me personally, I love Riveria, but I don't know, guys. I love the units. Every unit here is good. I've had to be pretty critical to come to this, but we have another banner incoming. That's only 2 units, and I'm gonna guess 2 tops 3 weeks time. So I wouldn't blow your iris today. That's my 2 cents on it. But if you do, you've got a lot of good units here. Probably banner 1 better than banner 2. Just being real, if you have to pick one banner, do banner 1. But I personally am going to go after Riveria. I really do want a Riveria. So for me, maybe I'm a fool and my iris soon parted, but I think she's going to be fun. I don't think she's going to be great. I think she's going to be fun. But for everyone else, I would say, honestly, most everybody else stick to this banner. Great Record Buster, great war game, no compromises, fantastic assist for either one of those. Very focused, excellent banner. Very questionable, arguably a replaceable assist with 2 hard-to-use units. I think the other banner's better. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like, comment, share, and I'll catch you all in the next one.